Hi, today I'm with my great-grandparents Betty and Stuart, and I'm going to interview them about the evacuation during World War II. Okay, the first question is, were you evacuated during World War II?
Yes, I was evacuated.
No, I wasn't evacuated.
Okay, these are some questions for Gramps. Okay, so why were you not evacuated?
Well, I lived in a suburban area surrounded by fields, so I wasn't likely to be bombed.
Okay, what do you remember about the evacuees?
To be honest, I don't remember very much. I think I was only about 4 at the time, 4 or 5 at the most. And there was no evacuees near me, so I didn't know anything about it.
Were any of your friends evacuated?
Not that I know of.
Okay. Gigi, some questions for you now. Okay. What age were you when you were evacuated?
Holly, it goes back a long, long way, and I just can't remember, but I think round about 4.
Okay.
I think about 4 years.
Okay. When were you? Do you remember when you were evacuated? Like the start, the end, middle?
Right. No, at that age I can't recall it. Really, all I can remember is where we were evacuated to, which was a town, I think.
No, village.
Just
no.
a village, I would say, a village, and the name of that was in Creetown, which is in Dumfries and Galloway.
Cool. How did you feel about being evacuated?
Well, at that young age, I thought it was possibly an adventure, but it was going to stay with other people, another family, so I think I might have been quite excited at having to stay with someone else.
Did you not know what was actually going on then?
Not really. I can't remember how we got there because when I was 4, which was about nearly 80 years ago, we didn't have cars or anything like that. We'd taxis, but taxis were a thing of maybe once a year you had a taxi, but I can't remember how we actually got there. But I take it we went by train. I was evacuated with my brother, who was 4 years older than me, but unfortunately we didn't stay in the same house.
Do you remember like how long you were evacuated for?
Right. Again, length of time. They seemed so long, but being so young it was like it seemed so long. However, when we got to Creetown, my brother went to stay on a farm, and I stayed with a family in the village itself. I think it was quite crowded. I think the lady was really over, what would you say? She was very, very generous at taking in another child because she had 4 or 5 children of her own. And the one thing that stood out, well, 2 things stood out in my mind, and that was we got to bed early. Why did we go to bed early? Because the bedding was, the bed was against the wall, and it was first into the bed, got against the wall, and therefore you didn't happen to fall out, because you'd maybe 3 or 4 or 5 people in the bed. You know, it was quite crowded, but I think altogether we enjoyed ourselves.
Okay. What did you take with you? Did you have like a favourite toy or anything that you took with you?
I think if I took anything, it would be a doll.
Did you have a favourite doll?
Yes, I had a lovely doll that I got from the lady that stayed next door. She gave me I got a doll for Christmas, and her husband was very handy at making things, and he made me a beautiful bed. It was absolutely gorgeous. It was like a single bed with a base at the bottom and a headboard at the top. And I think I was privileged to have it. And on the bed there was a light. And I thought that was absolutely wonderful. How did he manage to get a light on it? However, if you looked underneath the bed, there was a battery, and that's how it was lit. So that's what I took with me down to Creetown.
Did you return back to your old home?
Yes, eventually we come back. I'd say we were down in Creetown for possibly a year or year about. That I can remember when I was in Creetown that I did go to school there. I think it was maybe just primary one I was in. And we had to walk from the school home to Jane Terrace, which was where I stayed. And I can remember this winter time. Now, I would only be a wee tot, but I can remember that the snow almost reached the top of the hedges that were in the gardens.
Wow.
And I was absolutely amazed because in Glasgow where I stayed, it was, you didn't really get the same amount of snow, you didn't get the build up of snow, so I think that was quite amazing.
Yeah, you must have been very shocked because you were quite small and it just looked giant to
It
you.
looked terribly high with the snow.
Can you describe your time being evacuated? Like any?
I think it was just a case of, can I give you the reason why we were evacuated?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, the reason we were evacuated was, unfortunately, my dad died when I was only 3 months old. So my mum had to look after myself and my 4-year-old, my brother who was 4 years older than me. That she had to work to be able to bring us up. She had to feed us and clothe us and give us money for, or send us to dancing or anything like that. That was all done in her weekly wage. Weekly wage, she earned about £2 a week. That was what she earned. And out of that she'd feed us and all the rest of it, along with paying the rent for the house. So during the war, I think it was a case of she had to work longer hours. It was difficult to travel, and she travelled quite a bit to work, so we were left mainly on our own with the lady next door looking after us, and I think she felt that it was safer for us to be evacuated.
Okay. Did you ever keep in touch with the family you evacuated
Yes,
to?
I did keep in touch with her. Unfortunately, they have moved. There's not many of them left, I'm afraid. There's the man that the husband, husband and wife, he was a baker to trade, so we were okay for baking. To do that. There was 4 girls and 1 boy, but we went there 2-3 years ago, and I believe that there's only 1 person left, and they stay in South Africa. So I haven't been in touch with them since then.
Okay. This is a question for both of you. How do you feel when you see refugees coming to Scotland, as it is very similar to people being evacuated during World War II?
I think I'll get a Grandpa to start that one.
Well, I feel very sorry for them, and I personally am quite happy to let them come and stay with us, because quite a few of them have proved to be very good Scots.
And I also welcome them into Scotland. I think they add to the quality of life here.
I do.
I'm sure that with you in your school, you'll have people from other countries,
Yep.
and they teach you things that you didn't know about their country, and they all the time they're learning all about our country. So I think it's advantageous to have them here.
Thanks. Did either of you ever experience a bomb going off close to you?
Yes, I would say round about 1943, I think it was. There was a church near the Queen's Park, and that church was demolished. It was bombed. The night that it was bombed, we were in bed at the time. However, we were wakened with the siren, and we had to make our way down to the air raid shelter. So, the reason you to get down there as quickly as possible, and the reason that you to get there as quick as possible, you to keep something warm on because it was quite cold. So we put on siren suits. The children wore siren suits, which was a virtual and all-in-one. We're taken down to the
air raid shelter.
The air raid shelter. The air raid shelter were just a case of brick-built buildings with concrete roofs, and the lighting was candles. So we'd no bills for paying gas or electricity. It was just purely a candle.
So it was like.
But it was. We were all quite happy there. We were plenty of chatting going on. That we didn't know why we were down there. It wasn't until later on the next day that we were told that the church had been hit.
Yeah.
So.
You said that the suits were just for children. Do you remember what the adults were wearing?
No, I would reckon they would just. Some of the people, I would imagine, would go to bed with their clothing on, so that they'd be able to up quick and
get
themselves down to the raid shelter.
Gramps, any bombs happen close to
Well, funny enough, I mentioned earlier that we wouldn't be bombed, and actually the German planes, after they'd finished bombing Clyde Bank and places like that, they came over our house to go back to Germany, and they dropped their bombs anywhere then just to get rid of them, because there was an extra load to carry back home, and they dropped one just up the hill from us, near Eagleton. So we used to go up there and have a look at the crater,
Cool.
see what we could find.
Did you find
That was
anything
it.
interesting?
Eh?
Did you find anything interesting?
Not
While
there,
looking?
but when there was a raid, an air raid, any time, we would go along the roads picking up the shrapnel, and the shrapnel was off the shells that the gunners on ground had fired at the planes, and when the bomb exploded, it shattered into small bits, and we used to go along and collect it, and it was still warm sometimes when we picked up. You couldn't hold it, in fact. It really was so hot. Yeah. So you can take the lights on that.
Thank you, Gigi and Glamps, for answering all my questions. Thank you everybody for watching. I hope you've learned all about evacuations with this interview with my great-grandparents. Bye.
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 Thank you, Holly.